Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Frameworks, the Graph Workshop, leveraging the graph for on-chain data in frames. Joining us today is Simon Schmid, who will be taking us through this session. And with that, I'll pass it over to Simon to get the session started.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. My name is Simon or Simon. Like, actually, I don't care how you pronounce it. My mother calls me Simon. I do developer relations for Edge and Node, working on the Graph protocol. There are multiple core devs working on the Graph protocol, but that's actually just an organizational detail. Yeah, so let's just jump into it. So the Graph Foundation is awarding 5,000 US dollars to all the participants. And yes, so basically that's so what we want to see is like usage of the graph network. I'll go later into what is the graph network and how we can use it. But just to say, like, that's the thing. We want to see people use the graph network, not the host service, not the studio preview URL or other things with frames, but that's cool. So the first prize would be 1,700 US dollar, the second prize 1,200, and then we have three kind of third prizes for each 700 US dollars. Okay. All right. So maybe quickly, what is the graph? So the graph, it's well known as a indexing and query protocol extracting data from on-chain data. And when you consider like getting on-chain data, there are a lot of possibilities out there. But I want to just quickly talk about what the graph is special or why it is helpful. So subgraphs are an industry standard. We will later on go into how they exactly work. But there are a lot of subgraphs for different protocols out there, like I know Uniswap uses it, Artblocks, known origin, there are POAP subgraphs, and there's a lot of cool stuff already there. But also subgraphs give developers the power to write their complete dedicated data extraction logic however they want, and that makes it very powerful. So for example, like some people wrote some CK proofers inside of subgraphs or like some music generation or whatever else. Like it's a fully Turing complete programming or like programming language. So we have like on the one hand side, it's an industry standard that there are a lot of subgraphs out there. There are a lot of subgraphs that we can already use, and then there's the possibility to even write their own. Usually the graph bounties are like new and existing subgraphs, but for this one, actually, it's just like one line. We just want to see very cool stuff. However, yeah, then the graph network provides transparency, the decentralization, as that is a decentralized data network that also gives consensus on data correction. So whenever we send a query to the graph network, there is some game theoretic thing behind, like the indexes have stake, they respond to a query, putting their stake at risk if it's wrong. So that's cool. And obviously GraphQL. I love GraphQL. It's my favorite language, but for API language. Yeah. So let's go into it. So the graph, like on the host service, currently there are 1 billion queries per day. So it's pretty heavily used. But also like there's this decentralized indexing network protocol that's launched for a good amount of time. That currently also we just had like very cool new releases coming features in the last week. So I can show them to you later on. But it's actually this indexing protocol. So there's a big network, like there are almost 200 indexes, there are a lot of delegators, there are thousands or 1,000 and more subgraphs. And already like more than 3 million GRT flew through query fees. So we have like this truly decentralized data. I pause here to check for the questions. AI assistants are here. Hello, AI assistants. Welcome to the meeting. I hope that you understand what I'm saying so that you can then give a summarize to your owner. So a subgraph, basically, you can think of it is a definition here of a database of a data schema. Like technically, a subgraph is nothing else than Postgres, or like a subgraph is the in the owner graph node runs as a Postgres database. So we can define a schema. Then it has some logic how to fill that schema according to what goes on chain. So it's not only Ethereum, there are actually 40 chains in total that are supported. So that's a subgraph. So basically what happens is like when you look at on-chain data, there are like all these different transactions on the same chain that are on the same chain. And what we need is kind of like bring that in order. So we have like these buckets that have like the data just specific for one protocol. That makes it very cool. Or on another hand, or like in a funny GIF, yeah. So like this mess of transactions in the end, it's just like ordered and nice to use. Cool. So how can you use it? So I want to quickly talk about the Messari subgraphs. So there are the subgraphs. I'll show that to you. They'll give a great coverage around the most adopted apps. There's also the possibility to do a nice comparison. So I talk about these subgraphs especially because it would be fun maybe to have some frames, where we can see like what's the TVL compared from some of the lending protocols, or I don't know, like how did the price develop, and so on. Like the very cool subgraphs here. There are like actually I think even now more than 90 subgraphs. There are standardized schemas, so that's why it's kind of funny. We can really compare these different data, and so that actually makes it very easy to go to these predefined data sets. So let's jump into it actually. Why not? So how did I end up here? So if you want to reproduce then later on what I did, like we end up on the graph.com on that website. Actually I need to go into my other browser, the development browser. Cool. So we go to the graph.com, and then there's the products, and so we have the Graph Explorer. And in the Graph Explorer, we can see all the subgraphs that are deployed to the graph network. So it's ordered by curation signal, but there's also possibility to maybe order it by date created. But what's actually the most interesting thing, as I said, like I want to talk quickly about the Messari subgraphs. So some of them have here the Messari logo. And these are the ones that are developed by Messari. So we see here that's the deployer. We can also click on this one, so to explore that detail view. And then we see here, it's exactly 100 subgraphs. And then we can see all these of Messari. So I want to, the ENS governance, actually a fun one that we can start to look into. Where was it? Here. Okay. So Messari has also a lot of subgraphs that are about governance, so about DAO. So that would be maybe a cool frame that looks a little bit at DAOs. And so when we go, we see the overview, that we can see a little bit like what's going on and what is it created, but there is also the playground. This is where it gets funny. So like here we really have like a GraphQL playground that what's important here is this button here, so the Explorer. If you open that Explorer, we end up in this nice little view, or where we can start to explore that subgraph code. And here for for ENS, there are proposals, for example. So we can click on proposals, and then we can look at that proposal, what we have here. So we have, for example, the creation time, the description, and then we can order by creation time in a descending manner, and maybe we just get the first 10, and then we can actually, it's very funny to see like even on chain which proposals are currently on the ENS DAO. Yeah, so that's just like one example of what we could do. So now when we have that query, what we need is to actually send that from a frame, right? So I created this this example CryptoPunks frames. I can actually share my presentation here with you. Or this one. So here is the example code. And go back. No, for whatever reason, this thing doesn't work now. Now it's entered later. But the important part is this one. So we are now on a subgraph, and we want to actually send the query. If I go into the code of that example code, we see here there is a route that currently uses another subgraph, but it's important to find this one. So we simply can go to that thing and copy that query URL. And if you have the query URL, you can paste it here. And then add the API key. And to generate an API key, I can show you through it. So actually, it's very easy. We can just go to the graph.com. Again, we go to the Subgraph Studio. In the Subgraph Studio, we can connect with the wallet. We can MetaMask, whatever. Use any of these. Connect, and then sign a message or not. But in the end, we're logged in. I can go to API keys, create a new API key. Then we're good. And add it back to the code. Nice. That's how we create these endpoints. Yeah, so this is a rough overview what you can do with the graph. I think we have 5 minutes left. So the question is anybody in the audience that has specific questions where I should go deeper? Feel free to write into the chat.
Yeah, if anybody has any questions, feel free to type in the chat, or if you want to take yourself off mute and ask Simone as well. Don't be shy.
All
And yeah,
right.
there's still 15 minutes more actually if you had any more content or stuff you want to share as well. You still have plenty of time, I think.
Yeah, for sure. So if there is no question, then I'll probably walk you through how we start with a completely new subgraph. Oh. So I showed you before, this is how you can query existing subgraphs. I said, like, the ones from Messari are actually very good ones. But there are also a ton of others. So for example, in my example, I used the CryptoPunk subgraph. CryptoPunks. Yes. That we can query. It's also a fun one. But like, yeah, there's the Graph Explorer where we can just explore it. But maybe from time to time, we want to create something completely new, something that did not exist before. And for that, we can create quickly a new subgraph. So how does that work? So whenever there is any contract that you want to index, we can create a new subgraph if the subgraph is not already existing. I need to think about this funny smart contract that's deployed somewhere that we want to build a subgraph for. I mean, let's try to go to face scan. Oops, face scan. Okay. Let's see what's going on. Ah, there is on Basecamp, yeah, there's this fun degen token, no? Okay, degen. Here we go. So maybe we want to see a little bit what's going on with the degen token. So we can start to look at the smart contract, and then we see we can read the contract, but basically we can just quickly just create a subgraph for a degen token. So let's copy that address, and then simply go to the graph.com again to that one, and we can follow these steps here. So I would need to install the graph CLI, and which I already did. But I go here in one up, and I just run our graph, like basically this command here, graph init dash studio slash frameworks, which is what we did before. So I can go in here and do this, and then we can check which protocol. So base is EVM compatible, so we can go with Ethereum. We can just use this one, and then find the correct chain here. So we have base. Go back and get the contract address out. Add it here. And then it automatically fetches the ABI from Etherscan. Sometimes the start block gives some problems, so we can just get another start block. The start block is basically where the subgraph starts to look for changes. One option here is that we go into the transaction when it was created to start from scratch. But if you just want to look at the recent transactions, maybe it would be cool to get a latest block so that the subgraph is quicker to catch up. So let's say this block. And even check when that block happened, right? Yeah, 2 hours ago. Yeah. So let's look at the degen token in the last 2 hours. Then here the magic happened, index the contract events as entities. And it's true. So this just creates like one entity for each transfer of degens. Let's run this in the background, because we can now already start to inspect code. So what's happening when we create the subgraph is that we have a subgraph YAML, which basically keeps everything together. Here we have the address, the network that we used, the ABI, we gave that the name, and so on and so forth. Like it has for all event handlers, all events that exist, there is a handler, and also the start block that we added in the CLI before. Then there is the schema that basically it defines the database schema for that subgraph. And here we have all these different events, then they're all just stored as one entity. Now, what we want to, and then there is for each of this one is code run. Like, so for each event, let's say the transfer event here, a new entity is created with the transaction hash as an ID, and then that thing is stored. And this here is basically really assembly script that looks very similar to TypeScript, is a little bit different, but more efficient to execute. So we could write here whatever we want, basically. Like we can do crazy stuff. Because it's assembly script, we can even look into what is in this transfer event, what is in the Ethereum event. Can we look at maybe the other parameters, the transaction receipts, to see if it was like, say, a swap or something. So there's a lot of opportunities, but when we start, it just starts with that boilerplate code. Okay. So the next thing would be, yeah, so to go into frameworks and then follow the further steps that we had here. So we have graph auth. With your keep that thing how to say private. Then we just run graph codegen and graph build, and then graph deploy studio, and then frameworks. We give it the version number, and then it deploys. Then we see it's already indexing here. Thanks. Cool. Already starts indexing. Cool. It's already synced. So now we can see, it's the same thing. We have a playground as before. We can go in here and really check on the transfers. Let's see what's going on. And then we see the digits that were sent around in the last 2 hours. Cool. Then the next step, as I said, like we really want to see subgraphs published to the graph network. So here we are in the subgraph studio. It's a playground. There are some preview URLs, but we want to have these subgraphs on the graph network. So what you can do is like we can publish. And now I can select here publish to Arbitrum 1. It's indexing data from mainnet, from base mainnet, and base mainnet is partially supported on the graph network. That means it is there, we can use it. There's just like one indexer that can index it at the moment. But don't get distracted by this. This is just like the graph network is currently in building, but we can still publish, and that one indexer, the so-called upgrade indexer, will index it and we can use it. So let's publish it. It's 2 cents at the moment to publish a subgraph on Arbitrum. Like it's very cool. With the recent update of Ethereum, like it got much easier. Let's see, and cheaper. So it's even like 1 cent to publish a subgraph. Yeah, let's see if it's already in the Graph Explorer. Yes, and it's here. It takes a while until that subgraph here is also indexed on the Graph Explorer. But again, here, as I said before, we have the query URL that we can copy here, go over to code, to switch to the other one, and then paste it here and copy paste over the API key. Okay, so Pratham's autopilot wants me to do a summary. So yeah, the last minute items is play around with the graph for these frames. There is already this example code that I shared before. Let's see if my browser now also accepts the presentation. So you can maybe go in here. Quickly see if I can fix that. Yes, here we go. Okay, nice. So we have some key takeaways. Graph is a protocol for indexing querying blockchain data. There are existing subgraphs like Smith that we can use. Yeah, the Ditto token is actually the Degen token. And yeah, subgraphs can be queried to the Graph Explorer. Yeah, nice. Any other questions?
Yeah, if you have any questions, please feel free to take yourself off mute or type in the chat.
Seems like we have mostly autopilots here.
Yeah. Uh, And yeah, if there are no questions, then Simone, thanks for the great workshop and presentation. And yeah, everybody else, thanks again for joining us. We do have two more workshops for the day, and then we'll be done with our workshops for frameworks. Uh, but yeah, if there are no other questions, then thank you everybody for attending, and I will see you all shortly.
All right. Thanks for having